Just as the evolution of farming methods and machinery led to the agricultural and industrial revolution, the evolution of technology has given birth to the visual effects revolution, which in turn has massively changed how film is conceived, envisioned, and realized. So in this video, we're going to explore just how movie effects went from this to this. The silent film era saw the birth and growth of Hollywood and the founding of various major film studios, and towards the end of the 1920s, the industry was booming. However, a change was coming, and the possibility of recording sound meant that soon the audience would be able to hear the story as well as see it. Initially, all the major studios except Warner Brothers rejected this new evolution and refused to use it, but evolution continues whether you want it or not. With the release of The Jazz Singer in 1927, everything changed. The film was a major success and forced Hollywood to accept the change and evolve with it. Famous actors found themselves out of work because their voice didn't sound nice or their acting was too over the top, and filmmakers found themselves working with an entirely new medium, where the films they wrote and planned for didn't have to have a simplistic storyline. Their shots didn't have to be full of action, and their stories could actually be told and not just represented. Just as Hollywood began to get to grips with the sound revolution, a new invention was about to change once again the way filmmakers envisioned their films. Before Technicolor, in order to add color to a film, you basically had to paint or tint each individual frame. This was time-consuming and the result looked unnatural. The 3-strip Technicolor process used 3 reels of film inside the camera, 3 different color filters, 1 cyan, 1 magenta, and 1 yellow, and a prism that reflected 1/3 of the light entering the lens through each separate filter onto each separate reel, thus creating 3 different color shots that, when combined, give us a color image whose yellows and reds were particularly brilliant. The Technicolor cameras were very heavy though and required a tripod. They also required a lot of light. This meant that films were written and planned for with a view to filming on an indoor set and well-lit conditions, and the fact that the reds and yellows looked so good meant that they almost always included a fire scene in the script. Are you an amateur filmmaker and want to up your game? Well, you don't have to discover the phonograph or a Technicolor camera to level up. All the skills you need are ready to be unlocked on Skillshare for absolutely free. I took a quick class with Thomas Darhair and his guide of how to create engaging YouTube videos. So if this video isn't engaging you right now, it's totally his fault. I'm joking, of course, it's yours. But I did, however, learn how to kill your darlings, which is a way of saying don't get too attached to any one scene. If it doesn't aid the story of your video, leave it out. And I can't stress enough how valuable this type of inside advice is to an amateur filmmaker. So allow yourself a few minutes of learn time. Click the link in the description to try Skillshare Premium today for absolutely free. The first 1,000 people to click will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare, so you can start exploring your creativity today. As color film evolved, so did visual effects. Before color film, filmmakers were basically limited to using clever cuts, stop motion, matte paintings, multiple exposures, and rear projection. This limited the effects they could achieve and therefore limited their creativity when writing and planning their films. But with color came the blue screen. Now actors, puppets, and models could be filmed in front of a blue screen on a plate and composited onto a different background plate later. This and many other advances in both technology and methodology meant that filmmakers could now not only convincingly place actors filmed on a set in Hollywood on a background filmed in Mexico, they could convincingly place any model or puppet they could create on any background they could imagine. This led to the film industry's science fiction era. The invention of the computer was the next step in the evolution of VFX, and it revolutionized the film industry, but also fractured the special effects industry. Initially, computers were used for compositing and lighting, and some very limited 3D animations. But as hardware and software evolved, the boundaries of what was possible to do with CGI expanded, and the digital revolution began. As with every revolution in the film industry, the digital one was met with skepticism and rejection. Firstly, from the filmmakers, who viewed it with a kind of snobbery and stated if it's not done in camera and on set, it somehow has less merit. And secondly, by the special effects industry itself, who saw it as an if the worst comes to the worst option. Sadly, these attitudes still linger to this day, but as CGI has progressed, the majority have learned to embrace it. Nowadays, filmmakers don't have to write their films whilst thinking how they could possibly be filmed. Filmmakers don't have to plan their shots in accordance with what is practically possible, and filmmakers don't have to limit their creativity. Nowadays, visual effects and special effects teams work together to solve the hows and whys, so that filmmakers are only limited by their own imagination. Please give us a like if you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed the music in this video, the links are in the video description, and if you like the channel, well, subscribe.